In Dune Part 2, we see the continuation of Paul Atreides. During the movie, Paul hears someone tell him, you have to know where you came from to know where you're going. And that sounds like a nice platitude, a thing that, you just say to people to be nice, to be kind. But today on Geek Devotions, we're talking about how God can use your past and use it to help your future. Hello and welcome to Geek Devotions, the show from devoted geeks who are devoted to letting you know that you are loved. I'm Celeste, and we're so glad that you have hit play today. If you don't watch past this point, know that you're loved. There is a plan and a purpose for your life. Don't forget to check out all the socials, all the things. We have all the stuffs going on, but let's get into the devotion. Like we said in the intro, the phrase, you have to know where you came from to know where you're going, is a phrase that kind of bounced around in my head, and it made me think of the story in Joshua 4:1-8. When all the people had crossed the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, now 12 men, one from each tribe, tell them, take 12 stones from this very place where the priests are standing in the middle of the Jordan. Carry them out and pile them up at a place where you will camp tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had chosen, one from each of the tribes of Israel, and he told them, go to the middle of the Jordan, in front of the ark of the Lord your God. Each of you must pick up one stone and carry it out on your shoulders. 12 stones in all, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. We will use these stones to build a memorial. In future, your children will ask you, what do these stones mean? And you can tell them they remind us that the Jordan stopped flowing when the ark of the Lord's covenant went across. These stones stand as a memorial among the people of Israel forever. So the men did as Joshua had commanded them, and took the 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan River, one for each tribe, just as the Lord had told Joshua. And they carried them to the place where they camped for the night and constructed a memorial there. The stones that the Israelites used to build a memorial had a purpose. They weren't just doing art. They weren't doing this just because they're like, hey, that's a pretty rock. Let's find 12 of them and make something. They were doing it in order to remember, in order so that their children and their children's children would know the promises of God, know the miracles. But it also had a dual purpose. It had the purpose of going, we put that there. For the people of that day, they knew, because of that memorial, that God had performed a miracle and gotten them across the river. It's important to have things that remind you of God's miracles. Not saying that you have to have talismans or totems or whatever you want to call them, just some small thing as a memorial that you can look at and go, God did a miracle in my life. God touched me. God changed me in this moment. Dallas talks about how in our church, there is a spot in the carpet where he cried and snotted because God broke him. And he can look at that spot and go, that's where I was healed. That's where I gave up this. That's where I did this. While looking at our past is not always a great thing, because there are things in our pasts that we don't like. There are things in our pasts that we'd rather not talk about. Everybody has it. It's important to recognize, though, that you're not in the past. Those bad things don't necessarily reflect on you currently. If you have allowed God to come into your life and heal you, then those bad things reflect His glory. They reflect the things that you were, but God changed it. He came in and changed the situation. Our church did a series several years ago called Threads, and it was talking about how God is weaving a tapestry of your life, and the front looks beautiful, but the back is full of knots. You can tell where there's been mistakes. You can tell where things went wrong and then got fixed. And it's important to know that without the mess ups, without the things that didn't go quite right, you wouldn't have the full tapestry. If you went to take those out, everything would unravel. When you think about the things that God has done in your past, don't look at it as, I was so terrible. Look at it as, God is so good. Okay, guys, that was your devotion for the week. I hope you enjoyed it. Big shout out to our friend Rick, who went with us to the movie. It was well past his bedtime because he gets up very early. And so that was a long movie for someone who gets up very early. So shout out to him for coming with us. Don't forget to check us out on all the socials, the Patreon, all of that. For as little as $1 a month, you can help us. Also, big shout out to the Ruiz family for sending us lights. We have an Amazon wish list, and it's really for us to remember what we want and to be notified if there's a deal. But we do offer that out if you want to support. Maybe you can't give monthly, but maybe you can buy a light one time. Maybe that's something that you can do. And so that is in the description down below as well. But we want a big shout out for Francisco and Ashley Ruiz. They are patrons, they are friends, and we love them dearly. Also, again, we had someone else who wanted to remain anonymous, and we want to say thank you, because they sent us a hard drive that is so fast, it blows my mind. And again, we can't do this without the support of you. Be that prayer, be that money, be that a one-time you buy us something. We can't do it without you. And we thank you for everything that you do. Okay, guys, well, it is now time for the question of the week. Question of the week is this: do you enjoy Dune? The old movie, part 1, if you've seen it, part 2, tell us your thoughts. I have some nostalgia for the movie from the 80s because I watched it in college with a group of friends, and so it was a fun experience. I probably wouldn't enjoy it again if I went and watched it, but I legitimately have fond memories of quoting that movie specifically with some friends from college. So it's a nostalgia thing for me. Okay, guys, well, with all that being said, stay devoted, peace and love.